It's going to your groups now?
I think so.
That is so.
It has a check mark on it. Let's see.
I'm going to tell you the only reason this is working, and good morning, you guys, but the only reason this is working right now is because Mercury retrograde is done. Otherwise, we would never have accomplished this. We are live on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and with yours, 8, 9, 10, I think. 10 locations.
It shows me up top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 check marks. Are we missing
1,
something?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is yours up there?
Not the business page.
That's what that's where we got to figure out on how to add that part.
I don't know how to do it. Hey guys, I'm hanging with Sam. We're
live on TikTok. We're live on all of our groups. That one we might have to YouTube on figuring out how to add your
can I
streaming things. Good morning, Heather. So you guys, something happened yesterday. Well, Leah's trying to figure that out. Yesterday I made, and as you noticed on my TikTok, I'm starting to do videos when I get up in the morning and I go for my walk. And I have a beautiful location. I live in a subdivision that's not really the country, but it's not really town. It's like, we got to drive to the grocery store, but there's cornfields all around us and bean fields, and the sun comes up and it's just gorgeous. Anyways, yesterday I made a TikTok about getting your ass up, going for a walk, doing something for yourself, not using the excuse that nobody can help you, not using the excuse that you have kids and you're single and you can work out in your home. You can make it happen if you really want to take care of yourself. And someone came on my freaking page and made a comment and said, "Don't shame us. We're trying our best." And to that, I had a bunch of followers. I appreciate you, Jess and Jen and whoever else commented on it. Here's the deal, Karen. I was that person that made every excuse in the book. I made every excuse that I was busy. I was starting a new job. I had 4 kids. Nobody understood the demand of what I was like. I did all that fucking excuses, and it's just excuses. If you wanted to, you would. Otherwise, you're just going to use the excuse. So she goes, as a coach. So she followed it up and she said, as a coach, you shouldn't shame your clients. Karen, you and I never signed a contract. I'm not your coach. I give advice on TikTok, and I'm giving advice I'm 200 plus pounds. So if anybody's shaming anybody, I'm the one doing it to myself, that I sat on my ass for so long and let myself get this big and didn't take care of myself. So I am always going to be the one. Couple things about me. I'm not going to be PC. I'm not going to be polite. I'm not going to be sugarcoating shit. I'm fat and I need to lose weight. And me getting up in the morning and knowing that I have an audience of people that are waiting for my 2 cents about divorce while I'm on my morning walk, looking like a pile of dog shit with my hair all messed up, bags under my eyes, no glasses on. That's what I'm going to do. And if I'm not your cup of tea, scroll the fuck on. Like, I'm not here to please people. I'm here to give advice. I'm here to be relatable. I think being 204 pounds this morning is relatable to a lot of women that are middle-aged, that have kids, that just want their body back and want their mental sanity back and want to have time for themselves. I enjoy the 40 minutes on my walk. I get to listen to podcasts. I get to make my TikToks. I get to watch the sun come up. I get to be nosy around my neighborhood. I get to just be by myself. And I'm never going to not do that just because someone thought I was shaming them, that I said, get the fuck off your ass and do something for yourself if you're not happy with yourself. If you're happy with yourself, continue to sit. I don't care. That was for me. It wasn't for you, Karen. So that was my 2 cents. People just need to know, when you follow me, I'm not going to kiss ass. I'm not going to be PC. I'm not going to say the right thing. I'm going to say the thing that's on my mind.
I didn't take that as like shaming though, but it's just the hard truth, right? It's like tough love is if you're not happy with something, then you have to be the one to take action to change it. Like, period, end of story. Nobody's coming to save you.
Right. And my heart goes out to her because she maybe is not in a place where she wants to make changes. But if you are doing your best, then do you, boo, and be okay with that. Me saying that should not have offended you if you are doing your best. For me, when people's comments ever bothered me in the past, like when I was at my worst and didn't have good confidence, it's because a little bit of what they were saying was true. And it stung. It stung to hear someone say something truthful to me. So I say that in the midst of, I have been in that place where I was in denial that I needed to do better, try harder, or step up my game. And I'm stepping up my game. I'm stepping up my game. I'm getting up. Did I want to get up at 5:30 this morning and walk? No, it took me till 5:47 to get my ass out of bed because I was just like, I don't want to get up. But I got to watch the sun come up. So it was well worth it. So anyways, I that's my morning. How was your morning? Did you get up and move your body? Did you go to the gym?
No, I went to the gym yesterday. Today I'm probably just going to go outside and go for a walk. After this is when I'll probably do that and meditate. I did do my gratitude practice this morning. But I went to a women's gathering last night. I have a girlfriend who's older than me. She's probably 15, 20 years older than me. And most of her friends are older, but I love the vibe. And so she holds these gatherings every once in a while, and they're run differently depending on what we're doing or what the topic is. But last night was cool. It was different. Is what she did is she had everybody on a little strip of paper write down a question that they had. And it's anonymous. You fold it up, you put it into a basket. And then all of us were sitting in this big circle in her dining room.
Yeah.
And each one of us, we like took the basket, we pulled one out, we read it. And then everyone who wanted to share their feedback about how they interpreted the question or what they think the answer is, they shared. And so we went around the whole room, and it was amazing because we talked about boundary setting, shadow work, authenticity, self-love. I mean, it's like all the things that we talk about that a lot of people don't talk about. It wasn't until this point in my life, my late 30s, early 40s, where I actually had people that I could go spend 2 hours with and have those conversations with.
And want to go. And want to go.
And yeah. And it's just, it was so cool. And so we dove into different things, and, you know, everyone has different interpretations of it and what things mean. And it's cool to just have a space like that where you can talk about shit like that.
Yeah. I'm missing, and I'm going to be honest, I'm missing our Zoom calls when we had people, like when I first started this on TikTok, I used to invite people to have Zoom calls, and I just had a consult with one of my OG clients. And she was like, Sam, I miss the Zooms at night where we just all get on and we talk about our lives and we would just share and had a little bit of a friend circle. And, you know, part of me wants to bring that back. Like last night would have been a good night. Like I was kind of wound up from working and I just wanted to like talk and hang out. And it would have been a good time to just jump on a Zoom and see who was there. So maybe that's
actually
something.
Someone in the next chapter said that they said that they wish that there was something like that where they could also get to know everyone and just hang out with everyone that's in the group. So maybe we should be doing that more often with that group.
I think so. So the next chapter that she's talking about, you guys, I know a lot of you have heard about it. It's a private Facebook group that we run, $30 a month. It's $1 a day to go hang out and get some good trainings on Monday, interactives on Tuesday and Wednesday. And we kind of share our lives in there and share little tidbits. But I loved the Zooms. The only reason I stopped doing them is because they got huge.
Right.
And there was like 60, 50 people in there, and you can't have an intimate conversation with that many people, but not everybody would be on. So maybe in the next chapter, I think we need to make a note of that. Good morning, Miss Joanne. I miss you. I love your face. Okay. So yesterday we did a training, speaking of the next chapter, on boundaries. And again, when we come on Tuesdays, guys, we do two things. You're going to be on here if you're watching this because, we're going to do this one right here, and then we're going to jump off and we're going to come back and we're going to do another one about our best TikToks of the week. So be tuning back in if we log out of here later. But we always come in on Tuesday and talk about what we taught on Monday. And we talked about boundaries, and we're not going to give all the tea, but we just want to have a basic conversation about how we failed.
Yeah. And it's not just, so we did a whole boundary training a month or two ago. Yeah. Shanna's like, what time does the next chapter run at? So we do a live training every Monday in the next chapter at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. But then that recording stays inside that group for at least a month. It's usually in there longer than that, where you can go back and watch it. So we had done a training, and yesterday what we did was we made it even more specific. So the training was more around what's the difference between setting boundaries with someone you're in a healthy relationship with and someone who is a toxic person in your life, because those are very different, but boundaries are necessary in both.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we want to do today is, like, I just want to share my little tidbit of how I failed at boundaries. Leah will share hers. And we want you guys in the comment section to just tell us, does this resonate with you? Are you this person that struggles with boundaries? You know, when I first got divorced in 2008, I kissed a man's ass for 8 years. I tell that story all the time because I didn't have any self-worth. I didn't have any confidence. I thought that kissing his ass was the best thing to do. Let him run my life because that'll keep him, tamer. That'll keep him happier. This man was angry.
Yeah. I think you were afraid of what he would do.
I was scared to death of him. I was scared to death of him taking back to court. I was scared to death of him telling the whole town, all the things he did anyways. So it's like I was kissing a man's ass with no boundaries for myself, just to prevent what he was doing anyways. And it's like, I don't know how long. Well, it took me 8 fucking years to like bump my head and figure the fuck out. But that fear, I feared setting a boundary and him making it worse for me, making it worse for my kids, telling his lawyer, telling the judge, she's being a bitch. And I knew I was already abrasive. I'm just kind of not that like, I'm not much of a people pleaser to most people, but to him I was, and so that fear of him judging me and then telling everyone else that I was being rude and keeping him from his kids, which we did 50-50. So I don't know how he thought that was fucking humanly. Like in my mind now, I look back on it and like, Sam, you're a fucking idiot. How did you think you were keeping his kids from him when you were doing 50-50 already? Like there was so many things like he would accuse me of, and I'm like, but I'm doing that. But I do it more because I feared getting in trouble. And I let his words and his action and his intimidation and his just overall being dictate who I was for 8 fucking years, who I was as a parent inside my own home. How I would run my own home in a way to make sure he wasn't mad at me. And I know that may sound crazy to some of you that are not in divorce, but please give me some hearts or some, like, let me know that I'm not alone in that I feared like fucking up in my own home that he would hold it against me. Now, you guys, I've had 300 court appearances. So there is a logic behind my fear that I knew he was going to take me to court for something little to something big, because that's just what he did. And I look back on it now being this confident person that understands boundaries, that understands my own self-worth, that has tremendous confidence now. And I look back at that woman and think, okay, it's what you had to do when you had to do it. But thank God you woke up. Thank God you got help. Thank God you became somebody different and have the confidence I have now, because fast forward, spoiler alert, my kids no longer go to their dads because they saw me show confidence. They saw me have self-worth. They saw me have boundaries, and they started to implement them with their own high conflict toxic father, and to where they were like, enough is enough. Mom said it was enough is enough. I'm thinking enough is enough. And I never coached them on leaving their dad. They just saw me have all this confidence within myself, with him and with other people that were toxic. And then they slowly started weeding people out, because their dad wasn't the only person they got rid of. They got rid of toxic friends. They changed teachers. Some of them did. My son changed teachers because there was a few toxic teachers that just didn't like him. And my daughter she'd switched 2 of her classes because these teachers were just too toxic, and so it's like me getting that confidence changed their whole perspective in life too. So, but I sucked at it, guys. Boundaries. I was like, boundary what? Like, no.
It's a practice, and it's always something to work on. I don't think anybody ever gets to a point in their life where they're like, I'm done. I don't got to work on myself anymore. I mean, boundaries is they're always something that's going to come up, and you're going to have to kind of navigate and touch base with yourself and figure out how you feel and why you feel this way. And is this something you have to communicate? But yeah, like going back to what we were doing yesterday, it's like it's very different. I mean, we used your example yesterday too with you and your mom, but like you can have a healthy relationship with somebody and still have something happen that makes you uncomfortable or makes you feel like you're spread too thin or taken advantage of or whatever.
Yeah.
Where you have to implement a boundary, and there's ways that you can communicate that without feeling like a bitch. Like you don't have to feel like I'm being an asshole by telling you, this is how I feel. But here's one thing you have to remember is when you're setting boundaries, like it's not about keeping people out. It's about protecting your own well-being. So when you set boundaries, you can't be expecting the person you're setting a boundary with to change. You can't change that person. You can communicate how you feel and what your needs are. And then they have a choice. They get to decide whether or not they want to respect your boundary, or if they don't, and then you have to say, okay, well, then this is my consequence. I'm not going to go, or we're not going to talk, or we're not going to be friends, or whatever the consequence would be for you.
And that just kind of made me think, like, you also have to have boundaries with your attorney as well as you're going through this process. Like, there's got to be a boundary where I had to tell my attorney, I think it was early on with my third, like around 2013, 14, that I said, look, you're only contacting me if it is life or death type of information. Don't send me and contact me and ruin my day with this bullshit accusatory shit that he's been doing the past 2 years. Like, nothing. If there's no evidence attached in the fucking pamphlet of the motion that he files for whatever reason, don't even fucking tell me about it till the last minute. Like, because all that happened for me was like, my attorney would just be like, she would get me all riled up. And then now I'm parenting bad. I'm not a good daughter. I'm not a good coworker. Like, and it would just, I would spiral out of control because my attorney was just like triggering me all the fucking time. And it was like, I can't be listening to this shit all the time. And while other clients of hers might have been great at that, I was not one that could handle it. I would fucking spiral. And I was getting motion after motion after, hey, let's try this motion. Let's try this motion. He was motioning for everything. And so it was really distracting to my day-to-day life. So I had to set a boundary with my attorney. Like, look, bitch, don't be calling me unless you absolutely fucking need to. Don't email me. Don't fucking send shit in the mail without you saying, hey, Sam, this happened. I'm sending you something, prepare for it. Because she would just send me shit in the mail and I'd be like opening it at 3:00 in the afternoon while my kids just got out of the car with me from daycare and school.
Like, what the fuck?
And then I'm spiraling while I'm supposed to be parenting. And, so I had to set a boundary with myself. Sam, if you get mail, you don't open it until the kids are asleep. All your housework is done. You're prepared for the next day. Your mom is on standby to listen to you call and bitch and talk out, whatever's happening in that mailing. But before I set that boundary, I was opening the mail as soon as I got home from work. And then now I'm, kids, go to your room. I need to talk on the phone. And it was just like, nothing would have changed from 3:00 to 5:00 or 10:00 to open that mail. Like, come on. So a lot of you need to work on your own boundaries with yourself as you go through this divorce.
That's step one is like, you have to check in with yourself and go, okay, what do I need? What are my needs?
Yeah.
And what are my limits?
Right.
And once you understand that, it becomes a little easier to communicate that to whoever you need to communicate it with when you're trying to set a boundary.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, I can't eat late at night. All it does is upset my stomach and I wake up with horrible anxiety in the morning. Like, I have finally tapped into what causes my morning anxiety. It's because when I eat late at night, I don't know if my body just doesn't have time to like get it out of my system. So then I wake up, because you guys have colitis, spoiler alert. I talk about that all the time. I have colitis. So I shit 25 times a day sometimes. And if I eat late, my body can't process that. So I've been holding my poop all night. And then I wake up like, I got to go to the bathroom because I ate late. Where if I eat like a normal 6, 7 o'clock at the latest, I have time to digest it, get rid of it, go have a nice sound sleep. And again, that might be TMI, but for some of you that are sitting there, you've never told anybody you have colitis. There's quite a few of us out there that have colitis.
Yeah.
So
I eat dinner at like 4.
You do eat super early. I'm like, are you having a snack? No, this is dinner. I'm like, dude, people aren't even off work yet. What are you doing eating dinner so much? But, having the boundaries with yourself, having boundaries with Jared. I talked about this yesterday a little bit. Like, sometimes you just have to speak up and say, like, no. Like, some days he's like, can I go with you on a walk? No. Like, that walk is mine, okay. Bro.
That's your need. Like, you're just being honest with yourself. And some people are like, that's selfish. No, it's not. If I know that I'm just going to be irritated if they're coming along with me because I was looking forward to having some alone time where I can clear my mind and just be with myself, then that's what I fucking need. And I need to communicate that with my partner and say, no, you know what? I'm going to go do my own thing right now. Right. And if it's a healthy, open communication kind of relationship, they should respect that, because if they're taking it personally, that's just a whole nother issue.
Right. And so, anxiety and boundaries, I think, go together. For me, I'm one that has, chronic anxiety, but I don't a lot lately because I figured out the food thing, but also because I have boundaries with myself, with Jared, with my own children, with my older children, especially. And then it's just like, once you have those with people that love you and they respect the boundaries, then it's like, why do I give a shit with people that I don't really like? Why is that boundary so hard? I don't even like that.
Or you can also tell when you try to set a boundary if the response you get from someone is toxic. Like, we went over that yesterday too. We talked about all the toxic responses that you might get when you're trying to set a boundary. And then you can see those so much more clearly, right? If you set a boundary and then somebody immediately gets defensive or pissed off, that's them. That's about them, and they need to deal with that and work through that.
Right. And so I was talking about that yesterday in the training about my ex-husband. For the longest time, I really thought if I kissed his ass, he'd stop being angry. And he's just an angry person. He's angry.
Which makes sense. I mean, because I see a lot of comments coming in of like, yeah, this is my situation. You just spent how many years with this person walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around because you didn't want to poke the bear. You didn't want to get piss him off. You didn't want to wind up in another fight. So that's your programming. You're now programmed to still, even though you're divorced or co-parenting, not living together, whatever your situation is, you're programmed to tiptoe around. Don't poke the bear, walk on eggshells. You don't want to piss them off, especially when legal shit is involved, because then you're like, well, now he's going to take it to the judge and he's going to tell his attorney, and then I'm going to get in trouble. And am I doing the wrong thing? And it's just this whole spiral that ends up happening.
Right. And I think for those of us that struggle with that boundary with that high conflict person, it's just what we're so used to. You know, I have so many clients just say, but I'm so used to kissing ass. I'm so used to just complying. I'm just so used to being the one that does it because it's easier. And it's not, because you're really just taking your own self-worth and just throwing it out the window and placing them of a higher value over yourself. And guess who's watching you do that? Your children. And so then you wonder why your children don't stand up for themselves with friends or with teachers or with coaches or with their high conflict parent. You wonder why, you know, you go to your kid, you're like, you should speak up. You should say that. Oh, really, mom? Because I haven't heard you speak up yet. You keep kissing a man's ass that calls you a bitch and a cunt every single day. That doesn't make sense, mom.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, your kids are going to tell you the truth, like at some point, and be like, you expect me to do that, but you don't do that. I mean, it's a whole, like, when we have bigger parents telling their kids, don't eat that. It's like, but we see you eat it. So why can't I eat it?
Right.
You know, like, you are the example, and it's with everything. It's exercise, it's food, it's what you watch on TV, it's how you dress. I mean, it's everything. Why wouldn't it go to the extent of how you interact with your ex? Your kids are watching. If they sense fear, your kids are going to be fearful. And for some of you, that's reality. That your high conflict person is scary. But for some of you, it's just your intimidation. Now your kids are intimidated, you know? And if you don't hold a boundary, and I'm not talking about going in and throwing, you know, the hammer down and being a complete bitch or, you know, control freak or an asshole. I'm just saying, show a respectful boundary, you know, and that's it. And for me, my kids were like, are you sure, mom? Are you sure you're not going to do that? Are you sure you're not going to go do that for him? Are you sure you're not going to respond? I'll never forget, we were at the kitchen table one time and they could hear, I had his text message set to a bark because he had a dog. He had a German Shepherd that just was on a chain all the time and never walked it. And it made my heart break. And so I set his text to a bark. And so we were sitting at the kitchen table, and this was when I was gaining my confidence. And anymore, their whole childhood, because they were divorced kids at the age of 1 and 3. And we're sitting at the kitchen table like 10 and 11, 10 and 12. And they heard the whoa, 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 whoa. And they're like, mom, dad just texted you. And I was like, I know. They're like, no, mom, dad, that was dad. Dad just texted you. And I was like, I know, kiddos. He can wait. And they were like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, shit. I mean, you could just tell the look. They were like, but mom, he expects you to answer. Mm-hmm. So then in my mind, I'm like, what conversations are going on when he texts me? Your mom, what the fuck is she doing? Is she out? Is she not going to, you know, like, then my mind was like, wow, I've trained them that if he barks, literally, I jump and say, what do you need? And so I had to retrain them that I'm not jumping at him. Mm-hmm. He can wait. You guys are here. You're safe and sound. There's nothing he needs that's that important. It can wait. It can wait until we're done with dinner. So then by me doing that, you guys, when it came to him texting them constantly at my house, wanting to know where they're at, what they're doing, who's there, what am I doing, you know, all that shit, they got to the point where they're like, we're busy. We can wait. We don't have to respond right now. We're doing something. And so it took a long time because I had trained them for years that if he yells, I say, huh, what do you need? And so that was a hard habit to break. But listening to them say, but mom, you don't understand. He just, and I'm like, wow, I did that.
Right.
I trained them.
And we do it like we don't realize we're doing it, but that's why all that work, like doing your own inner work, is so important, because everything you learn, all of the habits you have, your coping mechanisms, everything, your communication skills, everything you have is what your kids are learning. You're modeling for them. So every time you do something for yourself, whether it's reading personal development books, journaling, being a part of support groups, doing group coaching, listening to certain podcasts, any personal development you're doing to heal yourself and break patterns. We're talking generational shit. I mean, we went into this last night. There's generational patterns that you have just because of the home that you grew up in and the people who raised you who were doing the same thing year after year after year after year. So you have like programming that you have to undo. You have to reprogram some of your beliefs and some of the ways that you do things. And every time you work on yourself, you're becoming not only a better version of yourself for you, but then your kids get a better version of you. And they're learning all the shit that would have made your life a lot easier when you were their age. I mean, there's so much stuff I know now that if I fucking would have known I would have made completely different choices in life. I had to learn so many things the hard way because these weren't conversations that I heard growing up. People weren't reading personal development books. People weren't talking about boundaries. People weren't talking about healthy coping mechanisms. This wasn't a conversation, and so it took me until my late 30s to start really taking some of this in and doing the work for myself. And that is now my daughter gets to benefit from all of the work I'm doing for me.
I remember personal development when I was a kid was like that self-help section in Barnes and Noble and stuff was like for the crazies.
Yes. And I remember the specific feeling when I walked in one of those bookstores one day and I asked somebody who worked there, can you tell me where the self-help section is? And I just felt like something was defective, right? Like I need the manual on how to human because I'm not doing it right. Can you show me where the section is? It's like you just feel weird. And now it's I think becoming more a part of the conversation because now we're hearing with social media, all of the gurus and the coaches and the whatever, everybody's talking about this and saying that this helps and recommending books and all of these morning routines and all of the things. So now we're a little bit more aware and I think people are more accepting of it.
Well, and I think, there's a couple of comments that I got to help you. And I know that we're not supposed to help too much because we want people to go into the next chapter and get a training. But for those of you that are struggling with a boundary with a high conflict ex, I did it for 8 years where I kissed ass. And then it's just like, again, I just woke up. I was in really good therapy. I was reading a ton of personal development books, not about narcissism, not about high conflict people. I was reading personal development books about me. I was reading books about how to be more confident. I was reading books about how to have a better routine, how to get up in the morning and put your feet on the floor and do the things and habits and all these things. I was just reading books about wealth. I was reading books about being a good mom. All the things I wasn't doing, I was reading books about. I wasn't reading about him. I already knew him. I already did that for 8 years too, by the way. I read books all about him. And all it did was keep me in a negative mindset. Once I started reading books about what I wanted to become and I was manifesting all those things, like, I want to be a good mom. I want to be organized. I want to get up early. It started happening, right? So when somebody says like, I feel trapped, it's been 9 years. How do you all of a sudden do you have boundaries? For me, it was literally like I wrote a list of all the things that I really didn't like about myself with him, like what I was allowing. I wrote about situations that made my stomach hurt, made me feel uncomfortable. I wrote everything that I just wish I could have in a perfect world that would change. I wrote a list. And then I just wrote a boundary next to all of them. Like to stop feeling this way, I have to do this dirty task. To stop feeling this way, I have to do this hard task. To stop doing this, I have to implement this boundary. And you guys, when I say that I failed repeatedly and reverted back, I reverted back. Sometimes it was hour by hour. Sometimes it was day by day. I could go a whole day where I didn't consume myself with thinking about how to not make him upset. And then there'd be other days where it's like 20 minutes would go by and I'd be like, God, I thought about it 10 times. Like it was every day was
not immediate. It's not nobody has an immediate change. It's something that you just have to be consistent with, but you have to do things differently. If you keep getting the same results in your life, it's because you're doing the same things over and over. You have to do something differently and make a new choice that is outside of your comfort zone to get a different result.
Yeah. And so like just the phone thing at the beginning, it was literally when he would bark, I would set a timer for 5 minutes. If I could get 5 minutes where I didn't have a panic attack of not messaging him back, it was a fucking win. And then sometimes I would stretch it to 15 and then it went to a half hour. And you guys, I'm talking like one whole week I worked on 5 minutes. One whole week I worked on 15 minutes. And like, because I thought the longer he waits, the more angry he's going to get. The longer he waits, the more trouble I'm going to be in. And slowly but surely I was retraining him. Bitch is going to wait 5 minutes. Now she's going to wait 15. Now she's waiting a half hour. And then sometimes I'd wait 24 hours. I got really cocky and confident with it where I was like, you don't need me. You're just trying to fuck with me. But at the beginning, you guys, I was such a lapdog. Like, what do you need? Right. I'm here to service you. Even though I had the kids with me, I would still be like, oh, you need the answer to this question? Let me service you. He was going to hate me regardless.
Right, right.
I was doing all this work for nothing.
That's the thing. You can't win.
No.
I mean, you can't win. No. And I love this. I want to just touch on this question. This is a really great example. Someone says, how do you set boundaries when ex is villainizing you to your child? Telling my oldest it's my fault. He doesn't see him anymore. And now my oldest ex so angry right now towards me. You can't. Yeah. What you're talking about is how do I change someone? You have no control over your ex and what they're going to say and what they're going to do. So if you struggle with hearing about what your ex is saying, then your boundary is to your child or your ex or whoever is, please don't talk to me about that anymore. Or I don't want to hear that anymore, because when you hear it, it's upsetting. But you have no control over what your ex is saying and doing. You know, that's the thing I think people have struggled with a lot with boundaries is you can't change someone. A boundary is for you. Your boundary is, how do I protect my well-being? How do I express my needs and my limits? I can't change anybody else. I can just decide if I'm going to participate in something or not. Or I can decide I'm not going to have a conversation. I'm not going to be in this relationship. I'm not going, whatever. It could be, there's a spectrum. But it's not about changing someone else's behavior. It's communicating how you feel. And then that person can either respect your boundary or not. And if they don't, okay, then what's your next step? What is your consequence? Then, okay, I'm not going to have this conversation with you, or you have to figure out what you want to do is that, but you can't change someone. That's not a boundary.
And when it comes to your child, you guys, if you know early on you have a high conflict parent that you're going to be having to work with or work counter most of the time, you really have to zone in and spend less energy trying to change your ex, as Leah was talking about, and spend so much more energy on your relationship with your child. Your child should know that that's a lie. Your child should know that that's not the truth. And again, I think this subject matter is more adult oriented. So depending on how old your child is, I would look my child square in the face and say, you and I both know that is not true. That is a false reality that your dad is living in. That is not why you don't see your dad. And when you're older, I would explain it to you. Or maybe he is old enough to hear a little portion of the truth. We're keeping conversations under 5 fucking minutes. 5. Nothing over 5 is worth talking to a child about, because this is a child you're talking to. But when it comes to that, kiddo, you're putting your hatred and your resentment and your anger in the wrong direction. I understand you don't quite understand this whole concept, but your dad has given you a creative story that does not even resemble exactly what happened. And this is an adult conversation between husband and wife issues. This is not a mom or dad issue. And it comes down to your child trusting that you are a truth teller, trusting that you know your child, and you've built that foundation with your child already that they can come to you and ask a question. Hey, I heard that you did the X, Y, and Z. Hey, somebody said and told me this. And you should be able to say, that's not true. That's not anywhere close to what happened. So this anger sometimes is from children that, number one, have been told a lie and it's never been corrected. Or number 2, they feel so loyal to the parent they fear that they will punish you because they fear that parent not liking them. So in this case, I don't know the story specifically, but I'm just guessing maybe dad has told this child something to where he comes across squeaky clean and it's mom's fault, even though dad has probably done something wrong. But because mom's not ruthless and going to tell and spill the beans, she's going to take the brunt of the story because this child feels like, well, dad has to be telling the truth because there's no way he's evil. I don't want to believe that he's evil. I don't want to believe he's done something wrong. So therefore, I'm going to lash out at mom because she has to be the problem. And that child deep down knows that you're going to love him regardless. So it's easier to punish you and be a piece of shit to you and be mean to you and be hateful to you. Because if he's mean to dad and tells dad off in this story, dad may run.
Yeah. And kids also learn the truth. I mean, maybe not as quick as you want them to, but they do get older and like figure it out and notice patterns for themselves. Yes. And the parental alienation is kind of being trickled here in our comments. And that could very well be as well. We did 2 huge trainings on parental alienation in the next chapter. So if you want to learn more about it, there's 2 workshops, 2 hours of training on parental alienation. Get in there and watch those trainings.
Yes. Yes. So you guys, we're going to jump off. We hope you loved this little chat about boundaries and us sharing a lot of personal stuff inside there. And if this is something you loved, make sure you give it a follow and like it and leave a comment for us so we can check that out. But for those of you that are still listening, we're going to duck out and come right back on. And we are going to discuss our best TikToks of the week. So until next time, guys, have a good rest of your week. Bye, everyone.